The story began with the girl, named Miren, dozing off in class, lost in a dream where she imagined herself as a highly successful designer receiving an award. She was deeply immersed in this vision when a boy's voice startled her. Upon hearing it, she muttered to herself in surprise, wondering if he was there too. Quickly, Miren opened her eyes and stood up in class, only to be called upon by the teacher, who remarked that since she was already standing, she should answer the question. It was at this moment she realized, dreams don't come with a rewind button. Completely unaware of what had been asked, she looked around in confusion and turned to a classmate for help. When she learned that the question was related to mathematics, she sighed, thinking about how difficult and confusing the subject was. Before she could process anything further, another boy, named Zhang, entered the class late. After apologizing to the teacher, he was about to take his seat when the teacher suddenly inquired about Miren. Zhang paused for a moment, as he already knew who she was. When the teacher again called her name, she stood up wearing her cap. The other students burst into laughter, as she had earlier mumbled something absurd about math in her sleepy state. Her classmates were now convinced she was either a misunderstood genius or in a long-term feud with numbers. The teacher finished his lecture and left the class. As soon as Miren stepped outside, the Zhang followed her. She immediately questioned why he was trailing behind. Zhang got serious and asked why she had never said goodbye to him before leaving. He finally revealed that after seeing her again after 2 years and 6 months, he had felt the need to meet her. Panicking at his words, she ran away. However, as she turned a corner, she abruptly stopped in front of a tree. Zhang wanted to know why she left. When she attempted to flee again, he tried to stop her, but she eventually managed to escape and reached her dorm. Her roommates teased her, asking if she had run all the way back just to meet her boyfriend. Laughing, she denied it and clarified that she was single. Meanwhile, Zhang entered his dorm, where his friend was already waiting. His friend Yue curiously asked if he had met a girl. Zhang initially denied it, but when pressed further about who she was and how he knew her, he finally admitted that they had been high school classmates and that he knew her very well. Zhang then inquired whether she was single, to which Yue affirmed that she always had been. Hearing this, Zhang's expression darkened, and in frustration, he threw his bag against the wall. Meanwhile, in the girls' dorm, a discussion had started about a new girl named Miao. The others gossiped about how she was stunning and had already been popular before even joining the school. As they spoke, Miao entered the room. She was as beautiful as the rumors had claimed. Excitedly, everyone rushed to her. Smiling warmly, she assured them that she was, and soon, she joined their conversation. Back in class, Miren made deliberate efforts to avoid sitting near the Zhang. Whenever he appeared, she would either leave the area or actively run away. However, one day, he managed to catch up to her and confronted her about how long she intended to keep running from him. Zhang demanded to know why she had never said goodbye before leaving. He insisted that, as her boyfriend, he at least deserved a proper farewell. Instead of answering, Miren handed him a card and immediately ran back to her room. Inside her room, her friends noticed her flustered state and questioned her about it, but she refused to explain. Meanwhile, her other friends arrived and jokingly accused her of abandoning them as soon as she had spotted someone. Sighing, Miren wondered aloud why he was so obsessed with her. She explained that she had no idea why he kept following her everywhere. At that moment, her roommate handed her an invitation card that had arrived for her. Excited, she opened it. Another friend teased her about what was so special about it. Enthusiastically, she revealed that it was an invitation to a major event where her dream designer would be present. However, upon closer inspection, she realized that the card was fake. Frustrated, she muttered that she would still attend and hoped that the security wouldn't check it. She went to Even, and everything went according to her plan. At the event, Zhang also arrived with his father. Annoyed, he complained about not wanting to be there, but his father, knowing him well, tried to bribe him with extra money to stay. They negotiated for a while until he finally agreed to stay for an additional $300. As the event progressed, Zhang spotted Miren among the attendees. Seeing her, he was reminded of their school days when she had once passionately expressed her dream of becoming a top designer. She was now passionately discussing designs, impressing the audience with her knowledge. As she spoke about every intricate detail, and after everyone left, she secretly took a picture of the design that is prohibited. And seeing this wonderful opportunity, Zhang also took a video of her. Same night, Mian and her friends were drinking and discussing their dreams. When it was Mian's turn, she revealed that her ultimate goal wasn't just to study, but to go to Hangzhou and train under her favorite designer. The next day, Miao walked past the basketball court. She accidentally bumped into a familiar face. Someone from her past, Feng. They recognized each other and exchanged smiles, but he quickly left as he was busy. Later, Fang's friends grew curious about the girl he had been so focused on and urged him to introduce them. He refused. Meanwhile, Miao met the class representative, Bao, who encouraged her to participate to become brand ambassadors. She hesitated, recalling how Zhang had once refused to participate in events, stating that it would ruin his image. Now she too declined, but the Bao persisted. When Bao returned to the dorm, Yue announced that he will become the brand ambassador of the college, which surprised Bao. While in the class, Zhong was watching a video of Miren. She later received a text message, and upon waking up, noticed a friend request notification from Zhong. Ignoring it, she went back to sleep. After class, she attempted to sneak past Zhong, but he stopped her. Bringing up the topic of her disappearance once again, he refused to let it go, as she tried to evade the conversation. He pulled out a secret video and blackmailed her, warning that if she didn't tell him the truth, he would make sure she never achieved her dream of going to Hangzhou. Blanked as she finally blurted out that she would reveal why she had never said goodbye, but he wasn't believing any of her stories. The story seemed as if she had to reveal the real reason, or else he would take the video with him. She said that she had forgotten the real reason and asked if she could have some time to think. He responded by saying she could take her time, but he would still keep the video with him, and then he left. Later, when Zhang returned to his room, he noticed that his friends were having a discussion about campus ambassadors. Bao was saying that a candidate needed strong qualities to win votes, but Yue didn't possess any such traits that would make people vote for him. However, he disagreed, claiming he was the best guy on campus, and once he secured the position, he would handle everything himself. As soon as Miren's name was mentioned, Zhang started paying close attention. He overheard that she was very skilled in drawing and would help create his campaign posters. Meanwhile, in class, again, Miren was dozing off when she received a message from Zhang, who told her to fetch water. She quickly got up upon reading it, but the professor was watching her. To cover up, she asked if she could go to the washroom. The professor allowed her, but also pointed out that Zhang never drank water in class, and on the other hand, she always has to go outside. She was frustrated because the same guy who was sending her to fetch water had even asked her to fix his bicycle earlier. Later, when Zhang declared his ambition to become the campus ambassador, Yue was shocked. He felt that Zhang had become his direct competitor. He pointed out that the only difference between them was their height, but Zhang hinted that there were other differences as well. After some time, Miren sarcastically remarked that Zhang was also planning to become an ambassador. Zhang affirmed it, and when she stated she wouldn't help him, he confidently said that she would. She insisted she wasn't a champion in this field, to which he replied that he would make her one. Miren couldn't understand what he wanted help with, but he left after instructing her to deliver what he had asked for within 10 minutes. She wondered how she could possibly manage it, but despite her reluctance, she went and got the item he had ordered. After delivering it, she joined Yue, who always had insider information about the entire campus. Their deal involved exchanging information, and Yue noticed her increased interest in Zhang. When he questioned her about it, she explained that a friend from her department was curious about Zhang, which was why she was gathering details. Yue seemed convinced by her explanation. All the boys had a habit of playing basketball, while Miren was secretly working on something. On her way, she tricked a security guard. After the guard left, she sneaked into the boys' area, searching for something related to Tian, but she couldn't find it. However, just then she received a message from Zhong stating that he expected to see her there with water as soon as he was done with his game. Reading this message, she felt annoyed, realizing that he had even brought his phone onto the field. As soon as the game ended, water was distributed to everyone. Seizing the opportunity, Miao took some water to Feng, who accepted it warmly. Seeing this, some others speculated that they might become a couple. They also noted that Feng already knew this girl from before since she was his junior. Miren reached a spot where Zhang had left his bag. As she took hold of his phone, she couldn't unlock it. After much try, she decided to include it with her dob, and bingo, the phone unlocked, and she started watching as the old Zhang was waiting for her. But suddenly, she was caught off guard when Zhang suddenly appeared. Realizing she was there to delete a video, he smirked and informed her that he had already backed it up in the cloud, so she couldn't delete it. Annoyed, Miren questioned why his phone's password was still her date of birth. Zhang awkwardly responded that it was easy to remember. Meanwhile, another girl bought water for Zhang, but he didn't take them, triggering Miren's memory of her high school days with Zhang. Back then, he had an allergy to mineral water and never accepted water from girls except from her hands, since she used regular bottled water. Seeing her lost in thought, Zhang asked if she had something to say. When she hesitated, he decided to leave. She returned to her room, feeling frustrated. When Miao asked what was wrong, she posed a hypothetical question about what someone would do if a guy who had once dumped them returned after 2 or 3 years. Miao denied ever having broken up with anyone or been dumped herself, so she really doesn't have any idea. Just then, their third roommate, Rosie, chimed in, saying that instead of discussing ex-boyfriends, they should focus on finding current boyfriends. With that, she left to take food to her own boyfriend. Shortly after, Myren received a message from Zhang asking her to meet him at a certain place at a specific time. Seeing the message, she started feeling uneasy. Rosie gave the meal to her boyfriend, but he barely acknowledged her effort. Previously, he had complained about the food being too salty, so this time she used less salt. However, he still complained that it lacked taste and went to get water for himself instead of appreciating her effort. While he was away, she received a message asking which hair color she preferred. Assuming it was from her mother, she casually replied that her mother had recently dyed his hair a certain color and it looked good. She suggested that if her mother wanted a new look, she should choose the same shade. However, she soon realized that the message wasn't from her mother, but from someone else. Later, Miran sat down to sketch, and Zhang watched her intently, reminiscing about the time they were a couple. He smiled as he recalled how she had once sketched him the same way, but when she showed him the drawing, he started pointing out flaws. Frustrated, she eventually gave up and handed him an anime-style sketch instead, saying she was done with it. As she walked away, she began throwing small pieces of food into the water. A stray cat approached her, seemingly interested in the food. She offered it to the cat, but it hesitated to eat. Just then, Zhong arrived and remarked that cats never eat plain food. Taking a small piece from her hand, he added a treat to it, and the cat immediately started eating. Looking at her, he admitted that he never knew she was so good at drawing. He also mentioned that he now understood her past reason for breaking up with him, realizing that she had found him too immature back then. Miran, caught off guard, admitted that she had only said those words in anger. Zhong then asked if she was finally ready to tell him the real reason. He assured her that he wouldn't force her or torture her for answers. Surprised by his sudden sincerity, she hesitated, but before she could respond, she asked him to delete the video he had of her. However, he simply smiled and refused, and he left. She saw him walking away with the cat and got flustered at the Zhang. Watching how he looked at her, she realized she might have started developing feelings too. But, controlling herself, she returned and, upon reaching the dorm, reminiscing about that moment. How he had looked at her while carrying the cat, almost like those romantic movie heroes. Meanwhile, Rosie and her boyfriend went to see movies. When they finally sat for the movie, out of nowhere, Rosie mumbled how their relationship used to have no secrets. Everyone used to share, even their phones, but now, things were changing. He listened to her complaints patiently until he suddenly planted a kiss on her. As they continued watching, he added, half-jokingly, that if they ever broke up, it would be due to her excessive talking. Laughing at this, she enjoyed the rest of the movie with him. After the movie, she went to see Myun, who was sketching something. Curious, she asked about it and found out he was drawing Zhang. Teasingly, she asked if she had a crush on the most famous guy in the university. Miren quickly denied it, claiming she was being forced to make the sketch. Meanwhile, in class, Zhang realized that she hadn't attended because she was busy with a post about him. This meant she could fail the exam if she missed more classes. Concerned, he messaged her, asking why she wasn't in class, but she didn't reply. On the other side, Miren was staring at the post she had created when an announcement was made about the ambassador elections and their posts. As they rushed towards the hall, Zhang, standing above, watched her with a smirk. His professor, noticing him, asked what he was up to. In response, Zhang simply waved his paper, saying he was leaving. He then rushed out, checked the post, clicked a picture of it, and hurried to find Miren. When Miren asked about the poster, he simply said he liked her post and that the weather was good, clearly dodging any deeper explanation. When the topic of the video came up, Zhang cleverly changed the subject and sat with her, but Miren, sensing his avoidance, moved slightly away. Zhang then started reminiscing about their school days, particularly their secret hideout, but she clearly had no interest in discussing it. Seeing him persistent, she finally stated that they were just classmates and that there was nothing significant between them. This response made Zhang suddenly get up. When she mentioned the video again, he smirked and made a dramatic declaration. If he won the election, he would delete it. Just like that, he had tricked her again. After school, Jung was at a company meeting where the manager was ranting about declining sales, but instead of listening, he was lost in his own thoughts. He came to his senses suddenly by the manager's interruption. While he was making grand business declarations, Miran was sneaking around to avoid Bao. When he appeared unexpectedly, she hastily tried to hide, but in the process left something behind. The counter staff handed it to Bao, who decided to return it to her. But when he reached, she had already left. He ended up handing it to Miao instead, who, upon seeing him, pulled him aside. However, as soon as he gave her Miran's pad, she scolded him for disappointing her, handed the item back, and walked away dramatically. He sighed and threw it into the nearest basket before leaving. Miao was seen approaching Feng with a smile, but just as she reached, a group of girls interrupted, handing snacks and water. Feng was charming as usual, causing Miao to frown and dramatically leave. She then carelessly tossed the Japanese food she had brought into the basket. Clearly, she was not in the mood for sushi anymore. In the boys' dorm, a guy approached Bao asking if he was interested in something. The boy, pretending to be disinterested, pointed at Zhong. The other guy immediately rushed to him and handed him a picture. Zhong recognized the picture being circulated. It was of his face, but with someone else's body attached. Confused, he asked who had distributed it. The guy revealed that a girl had paid him $100 to spread it around. Amused yet irritated, Zhong offered to pay him double to stop sharing it. Later, Zhong messaged Miran, telling her to meet him at a certain time. Miran, reading the message, sighed dramatically, thinking about everything she had done for him, yet he was still summoning her like a medieval king. Miran later approached Miao, asking for her help. Although reluctant, she agreed. As they walked together, she flattered her continuously, making sure she stayed cooperative. When she realized she had forgotten something, she asked Miao to get a speaker instead. Miao enthusiastically agreed, calling her wonderful, and then teasingly asked if she had feelings for Zhong. Mian rolled her eyes and denied it, revealing instead that he had a video of her. Miao, now curious, offered his support, leading her to explain everything. As Mian sat waiting for him, she grew frustrated with his lateness, but just as she was about to explode, he appeared, apologizing sweetly. Instantly, her anger vanished. His charm was annoyingly effective. Zhang then showed her the funny picture and asked what it was. She smugly told him that if he wanted to be popular among boys, he needed to get votes from them, just like how he was getting votes from girls. Zhang scowled and declared she wasn't interested in any of this. Meanwhile, Miao went to pick up the speaker but got distracted by a shopkeeper showing a laptop filled with mysterious files. As she glanced at the screen, Bao suddenly arrived, snatching the laptop away. He quickly shut it and scolded her for snooping. Amused, she said that as classmates, there shouldn't be any secrets. He nervously denied any secrets, but when she pressed him, he grew defensive and fled with his laptop. Later, Mian received a call and excused herself. When she reached, she saw a box with her name on it. Miao also helped her and she grabbed it, ran off, but Mian mistakenly picked up the wrong parcel, assuming it was hers. As she opened it, she found something completely unexpected. A bedsheet so hideous that even a ghost would refuse to haunt it. Looking at it in horror, she muttered, "Nope, this is where I draw the line." Miao remarked that she had no idea his taste was so grand. Seeing her reaction, Myren quickly clarified that it wasn't hers. Upon reading the label, they realized it belonged to their other roommate, Janu. In a rush, they decided to return it before she arrived. Just then, Janu entered and saw her parcel was open. Miren quickly apologized, explaining that the parcel had mistakenly ended up with her. However, as Janu picked up the package, the bed sheet fell from it, causing even more chaos. Janu scolded Miren, asking how he dared to touch her belongings. She tried to defend himself, saying he hadn't intended to open anything. Miren remarked that she was the one who opened the parcel. The scene shifted to the morning, where it was shown that Miren had already reached the venue, encouraging the girls to vote for the Zhang. One girl, however, expressed her desire to take a photo with him. Miren says he wasn't available at the moment and was suggested to take a picture with someone else instead, but the girls just left. Miren was getting increasingly frustrated as Zhang was once again late. Eventually, Zhang arrived, dressed in an adorable costume, making everyone chuckle. Even Miren couldn't help but comment on how cute he looked. Just then, their friends joined, adding to the humor. To avoid further embarrassment, Zhang quickly got involved in their tasks. At this point, Bao asked about the other costume girl, Miao, who had been instructed by Miren to keep it a secret, so she lied by taking someone else's name. This caused further confusion, and Bao unknowingly started chatting with the other girl about Miao. The conversation escalated, and out of frustration, Miao removed her disguise, challenging Bao to say whatever he wanted directly to her. Zhang was left speechless and stormed away. Afterward, Zhang wasn't getting much attention from the fans. However, a group of girls wanted a picture with him. Zhang was initially hesitant but eventually agreed. While taking the photo, his frustration surfaced, sarcastically mentioning how it didn't matter if people voted for him or not. Annoyed, Miran pointed towards a guy showing off his body and remarked that such stunts were what attracted fans. To prove her wrong, Zhang started dancing for the girls, drawing everyone's attention. The girls quickly flocked to him, leaving the other guy surprised. Looking at him, Miran began to think about her past encounters with Zhang Reihong, recalling how he first noticed her at the park when she had saved him from bullies after his cat's death. Touched by his words, Miran wondered what would have happened if she hadn't intervened that day. She regretted how she had treated Zhang in the past and vowed never to deceive him again. When Zhang returned to his dorm, Bao excitedly announced that he had been selected for the next round. His friends suggested celebrating, but Zhang's mind was elsewhere. He sent a message to Miren, teasing her about not congratulating him with flowers. When Miren received the message, her friends encouraged her to respond, but her reaction was lukewarm. Miao sensed something was wrong and asked her why she wasn't happy. In a moment of frustration, Mien jokingly claimed that Zhang was her ex-boyfriend. Miao was stunned but soon realized it was just a prank. The scene shifted to the event, where several girls held flowers, eagerly waiting to give them to Zhang. However, Zhang had a severe pollen allergy. Upon receiving the flowers, he fainted and woke up in a hospital. His friends were by his side, visibly concerned. When Zhang opened his eyes, he noticed his hand intertwined with Yuai's, which he quickly pulled away, embarrassed. The news of his allergy spread like wildfire, and soon Zhang learned that Miren had encouraged people to give him flowers. He was shocked that she would do something like this. Miren, realizing her mistake, went to the hospital to apologize. However, as she approached, she overheard Zhang's friends advising him not to forgive her so easily. Overcome with guilt, she ran away, thinking about how she could fix her mistake. She even considered sending a message to Zhang apologizing, but before she could, she received a text from him, asking her to meet him. When she met him, she apologized sincerely, saying she had no idea about his allergy. In response, Zhang showed her his phone and revealed that he had deleted the video she was worried about. He assured her that he didn't want to hold any grudges. In the next scene, Feng was repairing his bicycle. Just then, Miao approached him with tissues, making him smile. He asked how she knew his bike was broken. Again, Miao, secretly aware of his struggles, played dumb and brushed off his question. While leaving together, Miao noticed a letter in Feng's bag and asked who it was from. He casually mentioned that someone had given it to him, but he wasn't interested. Hearing this, Miao was visibly pleased. Meanwhile, another scene showed Jianu in a library being interrupted by a boy. Before he could say anything, she snapped at him, assuming he was about to bother her. To her embarrassment, the boy merely pointed out that she had dropped something. After thanking him, she realized he was Xiao, the writer she admired. She eagerly asked him to teach her about postgraduate studies, but Xiao dismissed her, saying she was too new. However, after some persistence, he agreed. On the other hand, Miren reminisced about Zhang, thinking about the poster she had made for him. Determined to find it, she searched around until she finally retrieved it. Cherishing the memory, Miren found herself standing in one spot, clutching the poster and wondering aloud why she couldn't stop thinking about someone who had already deleted her video. Just as she was deep in thought, her friend Yue sneaked up behind her, startling her. She accused him of scaring her, but Yue's curiosity quickly shifted to the poster. Upon noticing it, he asked her where she was taking it. Trying to play it cool, she confidently declared it was her first project, so she simply wanted to keep it close proper like a security blanket for grown-ups, but with fewer embarrassing memories. Yue didn't question her further, but the conversation soon veered toward love. With a teasing grin, he asked if she had fallen for someone. Before she could formulate a denial, they spotted Jianu walking hand-in-hand with a boy, radiating enough romance to fuel a rom-com sequel. Yue, clearly regretting his timing, watched in awkward silence. To spare him further embarrassment, Miren quickly dragged him away. Yue, naturally, was a little miffed. He wanted to know why she had whisked him off like a hostage in a low-budget action movie. Miren, however, admitted she had recently argued with Jianu and wasn't in the mood for an unexpected confrontation. Yue couldn't help but roll his eyes, suggesting that if anyone should be embarrassed, it was the overly lovey-dovey couple. But Miren wasn't taking the bait. Instead, she handed Yue the poster, treating him like her personal assistant. Back at her room, her roommate Miao raised a skeptical brow upon seeing the poster again. When questioned, Miren once again pulled out her first project excuse. Miao wisely decided to let it go, opting instead to bury her curiosity in her phone. When she noticed his lingering gaze, she remarked that it would feel like the poster was watching her all night, probably judging her life choices. In response, Miao dramatically turned the poster to face her bed, declaring victory over the inanimate object. Later, Miao casually asked what it meant if someone couldn't stop thinking about a person who had already left them. Miao, barely suppressing a laugh, explained that it usually meant they had caught the love bug. She then shared her own high school drama, reminiscing about a boy who had mysteriously appeared everywhere she went. A romancer or committed stalker, the lines were admittedly blurry. Unfortunately, their epic love story never took off since he failed to get into her school. Mid-conversation, Miao received an email inviting her for an interview at Hangzhou. Her joy was short-lived when she read the part about presenting her designs. Anxiety kicked in faster than a caffeine rush. Meanwhile, Bao handed Zhang a gift for winning the election. In typical Zhang fashion, he told Bao to keep it, possibly sparing himself from whatever questionable trinket lay inside. A while later, Zhang's manager called, armed with both good and bad news. The good news? Their company's project had been accepted. The bad news? They needed 20,000 additional pieces, and no local factory was willing to produce them. Zhang decided to travel personally to negotiate, though his manager couldn't resist a jab, pointing out how Zhang resembled his father, never leaving anyone alone, not even with a fleet of cars at his disposal. Meanwhile, Miren was facing her own set of obstacles. Hopping from factory to factory, every single one refused to take orders under 10,000 pieces, leaving her hope hanging by a thread. Just as she was on the verge of accepting defeat, Zhang spotted her in distress. Forgetting all about his factory troubles, he rushed after her because, clearly, dramatic gestures were his thing. He invited her for a meal at a newly opened restaurant, where they were greeted with a free bottle of alcohol. Myron initially declined, but the next thing she knew, she was calling for more drinks like a sailor on shore leave. Mid-drunk ramble, she vented about her shattered dreams and her fears about the interview. When she showed Zhang her notebook of designs, he praised them, saying they were incredibly unique. Miren, however, took his words as divine approval and asked if she should go to Hangzhou. Without missing a beat, Zhang assured her that she absolutely should, though maybe without the alcohol-induced enthusiasm. Eventually, after Zhang carried her back to a hotel room, Miren, fueled by liquid courage, pulled him close, setting the perfect stage for a romantic moment. Just as they were about to kiss, a voice from outside disrupted them, asking if Zhang had fallen asleep. Naturally, he pretended to be sleeping, while Miren, somewhere between embarrassment and disbelief, tried to piece together the chaotic evening. The next morning, Miren woke up to find Zhang snoozing next to her. Remembering fragments of the previous night, she cringed, congratulating Zhang on being such a good person. Zhang, amused by the belated compliment, responded with a grin. In a moment of boldness, Miren planted a quick kiss on his cheek, leaving Zhang momentarily stunned before breaking into a smile. By the end of the day, as they stood waiting at the bus stop, as Miren boarded the bus, Zhang walked alongside, matching her pace with a grin, knowing that sometimes, even unspoken wishes find a way to come true. As soon as the bus starts moving, Miren opens the window and sincerely tells Zhang that she hopes all his wishes come true. Hearing this, he smiles warmly, while Miren also smiles along with him. When Miren reached home, she appeared a bit flustered. Noticing this, Miao teasingly remarks that Miren might have started liking Zhang, causing her to blush even more. Seeing her reflection in the mirror, Miren blushes harder. The next day, Miren's friend calls her, asking why she hasn't arrived at class yet. While rushing to class, Miren pleads with Miao to do something on her behalf. Just then, Zhang overhears everything casually while riding his bicycle. As the call ends, Zhang stops near her. Both exchange a shy good morning, and Miren suddenly remembers they are both late for class. Zhang offers her a ride on his bicycle, but when she turns to check the seat, she realizes it's missing. Poor Zhang looks embarrassed while their friend watches from afar. The friend teases them, asking why they're just standing there when class has already begun. Miren tells Zhang to head to class without her, insisting she'll manage. Zhang leaves hesitantly. Upon entering, they see the teacher scolding a few boys for being late. Zhang cleverly distracts the teacher by pretending to ask a question. Seizing the moment, Bien quickly sneaks into the class. The teacher, none the wiser, answers Zhang's question, while Mien silently thanks him for the help. After class, two girls gossip about Mien. Overhearing them, Miao boldly confronts them, saying if they have something to say, they should say it to her face. The girls sarcastically respond, questioning how Miao assumed they were talking about her. But when Miao points out their suspicious behavior, they openly admit it. They mockingly bring up Miren's alleged theft, referencing a claim made by someone. Miren is taken aback and firmly denies the accusation. However, the girls persist, insisting Janyu spread the rumor. Shaken, Miao questions why Janyu would say such a thing. Her friends step up in her defense, claiming Miren would never steal. Still, the seed of doubt lingers as Miren recalls a time when she borrowed some pads from a friend. Feeling cornered, she rushes to confront Janyu, but she refuses to address her accusations directly. Miren's frustration grows as she demands proof. Janyu smugly tells her to provide evidence of her innocence. With determination, Miren storms off to find security footage from the store, hoping it will clear her name. Back at the dorm, everyone awaits for Janyu. Feeling guilty, Miran apologizes for taking her pads without asking, admitting it was an emergency. Mira, on the other hand, scolds Janyu for blowing things out of proportion over a misunderstanding. Miran confesses that she had intended to return the pads but forgot. Despite her friend's explanation, Janyu remains skeptical. Desperate for proof, she demands to see any purchase list or evidence. Miran insists that it was purely an accident. But suddenly, Miao remembers that Bao had mentioned something about pads. She told Bao to buy them as soon as possible. Reluctantly, at the store, Bao anxiously requests the footage, only to be interrupted by his friends who show up unexpectedly. Trying to cover up his tension, Bao claims she's just there for some shopping. He quickly pays for a few items and leaves. He handed them to Miao, but when she found something else, she again threw it at Bao, calling him disgusting. Poor Bao had no idea how they got in his bag. Later, when Miao returned the pads, Janyu said her watch was missing. In true soap opera fashion, she dramatically accused him of stealing it. They looked bewildered, probably wondering if she should start a career in crime if people already thought she was that good. As the argument intensified, a bystander burst in, announcing that the actual thief had been caught and the stolen watch recovered. Janyu's jaw nearly hit the floor. She awkwardly slipped away, probably reconsidering her amateur detective career. Despite the earlier drama, Miren's friend stood by her side, certain she was innocent. Returning to the scene again, Janyu brought food as a peace offering, almost as if a spicy dish could erase a felony accusation. She apologized for her accusations, explaining she had assumed the worst. Miren, in his best "I told you so" voice, quipped about how even criminals don't prefer spicy food like her. They both laughed, shaking off the awkwardness. To clear things up officially, Miao suggested Janyu make a public apology. Later, Janyu posted her apology publicly, but Zhang already knew about the pad incident because Bao had told everything to her. Later, Miren toyed with the idea of sending a heartfelt message to Zhang. After much internal debate, she sent one with heart by mistake, classic panic mode unlocked. Zhang, seeing the message, was secretly overjoyed, but Miren's quick unsend move left him more disappointed than someone finding out free Wi-Fi has a catch. She eventually resorted to sending a video apology, delivering an Oscar-worthy performance, but Zhang got more frustrated. The next day, school clubs buzzed with activity, and Miren found herself face-to-face with Zhang again. He pretended not to notice her, giving her the classic, "I saw you, but I'm too cool to care" look. Miren, meanwhile, looked like someone who had just accidentally waved back at a stranger. Eventually, their friends broke the tension, and Zhang casually explained he arrived early to secure a spot, as if cheerleading applications were the next stock market craze. With forms in hand, Miao and Miren tried their luck at the cheerleading club. Unfortunately, they were greeted with the soul-crushing words, "Forms are finished." Miao, however, pulled the classic puppy eyes, a technique even seasoned politicians couldn't resist. The captain, though, was immune. Fang finally came to their rescue, offering the last form like it was a golden ticket to the Willy Wonka factory. Miao secretly confessed her crush on the senior, revealing that cheerleading was merely a side quest. Meanwhile, Miren maintained she joined for the experience, not to secretly cheer for Zhang, of course. On selection day, Miren's dance routine caused a wave of laughter. Her performance resembled a mix of interpretive dance and a Wi-Fi router struggling to connect. Mirio's turn wasn't much better, leaving the judges questioning if it was modern art or a furniture assembly tutorial. Seeing a giant cross on Miren's form, it became clear she'd been disqualified. Dramatic gasp. Undeterred, Miren encouraged her to try again. When the results were announced, Miren's name echoed through the hall, and she celebrated with a victory dance so intense it deserved its own halftime show. Yet, Miren wasn't done. She demanded Miao be included in the club too. The coach resisted like a bouncer at an exclusive club, but Miren firmly declared it was a buy one, get one free offer. Left with no choice, the coach relented. Miao basked in her triumph, but not before delivering her most controversial opinion yet. The cheerleading uniforms were atrocious. Suggesting a fashion intervention, she even recommended hiring an actual designer, Miran, dragging her away with an expression of pure regret, swore to herself never to let Miao attend the cheerleader show unsupervised. Miao is talking to Miran about the basketball match happening today. Upon hearing this, Miran eagerly asks if Zhong will also be there. When Miao suspected, she noticed the slip, quickly tried to cover it up, saying she meant to ask about the snacks available at the match. They both decide to hurry and watch the game. The match begins, and Zhong scans the audience but doesn't see anyone familiar. Just then, Miran enters, and his face lights up. Despite this, he doesn't make a call. Meanwhile, the girls sitting near him are happy just watching him. Miran wonders why they are so pleased when he hasn't done anything remarkable yet. Honestly, with the way they cheered, you'd think he had just invented a cure for Mondays. The game progresses impressively, and during the break, Miao goes to get some water for Fang, while Miran also fetches water for Zhang. However, some other girls have already lined up to offer Zhang water. Zhang declines, saying he already has some. When Zhang finally reaches Miran, she offers him water, but Yue took it and scolds her for not bringing milk as he had told her to. Miran remains calm, encouraging him to drink the water anyway. Just then, the coach arrives and asks Yue about his height. Yue had exaggerated his height earlier, but the coach, skeptical, questioned him further. Yue insists it's true, even asking Miran to back him up. However, Miran recalls that Zhang's height hadn't increased since high school. Comparing him with Zhang, it becomes clear that Yue was bluffing. The coach's face had the same disbelief you'd expect from someone hearing a cat bark. Later, Miran stands by Zhang, smiling despite his embarrassment. She offers him a water bottle, but Zhang refuses to accept it. He is visibly upset. Miran tries to apologize, acknowledging that she had yelled at him in public, but Zhang storms off without saying much. While Miao follows Fang and overhears a girl accusing him of having a girlfriend. Fang denies it, saying the Miao girl is just a friend and not even his type. This crushes Miao's feelings, and she leaves, heartbroken. Back at the game, Miran returns to find Zhang surrounded by multiple girls holding water bottles. Despite this, Zhang doesn't take any. Miran dramatically hands him a massive water bottle, leaving Zhang puzzled. Realizing she is trying to make a point, Zhang sarcastically flaunts the oversized bottle to the other girls, making them leave in annoyance. In the boys' locker room, everyone compares their water bottles to see who has the biggest one, and Zhang wins by far. Miran later boasts about her bottle gifting stunt to her friend, feeling a strange sense of triumph. At the dorm, Zhang gazes at the enormous water bottle, oddly cherishing it. When his friends question this, Zhang simply avoids explaining the sentiment behind it. Elsewhere, Miran's friends notice her unusual behavior and speculate if something is wrong. Miao, however, refuses to elaborate, curling up under a blanket instead. Her friends remain confused. The next day, Miran, determined to bring Miao to class, reassures the teacher that she will attend. The coach sternly warns that if Miao skips again, she might be barred from the class. Miran takes this to heart and promises to ensure Miao's presence. Meanwhile, Zhang has a strained conversation with his manager, who criticizes his lack of focus. Despite his success, Zhang feels disconnected, especially from his father, who remains unimpressed with his business ventures. Determined to prove himself, Zhang resolves to succeed without his family's support. At the dorm, Miran finds her sulking again, because Feng's indifferent behavior has left her deeply hurt. Despite their attempts to cheer her up, nothing seems to work. Eventually, she mocks Feng's mannerisms to lighten the mood. Miao laughs uncontrollably, bonding over the shared silliness. Later, Zhang visits his father with new business proposals, but the older man remains dismissive. Frustrated, Zhang vows to handle things independently at home. Back at school, Zhang is absent and Miran expresses concern. Upon learning he's unwell, she tries to check on him. However, Yue notices Miran's concern and teasingly questions her sudden interest in Zhang. Flustered, Miran dismisses his remarks. The story then shifts to Zhang's personal struggles. Despite his achievements, his fractured family relationships weigh heavily on him. Seeking validation, he turns to his mentor, who reassures him. As the day ends, when Bao finds out about Miao, she goes to meet her. When she came outside, she saw Feng with another girl, so she started crying again. Bao got confused as he thought it's because of him, so he fled from the scene. When Miao returned to her dorm, her friends prepared to shop together, hoping for a distraction from their worries. While Miao remained subdued, her friend with a cup of noodles tries to comfort her. The next day, Zhang was searching for a perfect place for his new business, but no location seemed satisfactory. When they finally find one they like, it turns out to be too expensive. On the other side, Miran and their friends are sitting together and enjoying a meal. However, Miao is not eating. Instead, she is gazing at a book, prompting a curious question from Yue. "What are you staring at?" Miao responds sarcastically that she is reading a book, and when Miao told the name of the book, Bao finds herself in an awkward spot because the story they're discussing was written by Bao. Everyone assumes she has had a heartbreak. Miao, noticing his discomfort, silently questions him through her gaze. When confronted, Bao firmly denies everything, insisting that people are reading too much into it. Later, Bao is reading the comments on her story and reflecting on them. Suddenly, Miao approaches him, having figured out the story was indeed his. He tells her that he thought he was motivating people, much like a teacher should. His attempt at justifying the story leaves Miao flustered, and she quickly leaves. Later, Rosie visits her boyfriend at the cafeteria and asks a girl about his whereabouts. The girl points towards the canteen, leaving her anxious. On reaching, she sees her boyfriend enjoying a meal with another girl, seemingly oblivious to Rosie's presence. Trying to maintain her composure, Rosie engages in small talk while gleefully shows off the food she had prepared for him. The tension is thick and the situation becomes increasingly awkward. When Rosie finally gets a moment alone with her boyfriend, she confronts him, but he nonchalantly dismisses the situation. He offers her food to lighten the mood. Meanwhile, Rosie's boyfriend's friends speculate about the mysterious girl and why he never mentioned having a girlfriend. On the other hand, Zhang has finally found a suitable place and is discussing the necessary repairs. The repairmen warn him that the quicker he wants the job done, the more it will cost. Zhang, unwilling to pay extra, jokes about the unreasonable charges and storms off. Later, he, determined to negotiate, offers the workers additional money along with free meals to secure the deal. As the basketball match takes center stage, Miao and Miran participate in a cheerleading dance. Despite initial nerves, they give an impressive performance, drawing loud applause, while Miran, observing the cheerful atmosphere, finds himself increasingly perplexed. Later, Miran invites Miran to meet him after the match. Although she hesitates, she ultimately agrees. While in the court, Fang proposes that Miao accompany him somewhere important. She refuses, claiming exhaustion, but he persists. Bao saw this, and to save Miao, he scooped her away by holding his hand as they walked away. Curious, Bao speculates about their relationship, and Miao unexpectedly admits that she may have fallen for him simply because he doesn't talk much. As the story progresses, Mian encounters Yue, who anxiously awaits her arrival. He revealed that Zhong left with another girl. Shaken by the revelation, Miran is left heartbroken. Meanwhile, Janu's boyfriend shares his frustrations about job hunting, lamenting his constant failures. He vents about his parents' desire for him to return to their hometown and find a stable job. Despite this, he wants Janu to move back with him. However, when she refuses, he demands that she choose between him and her aspirations. Tearfully, she chooses to break up and leaves, while Zhang waits for Mian on time, hoping she would show up. Despite his messages, Mian responds that she cannot make it. Defeated, he leaves. Simultaneously, Mian is regretting her decision to trust Zhang again while crying. Later, a heartbroken boyfriend, drowning in drinks, begs Jianyu not to end things. Overhearing the conversation, Rosie exchanges concerned glances. The following day, Miran tries to move on from Zong, but Rosie, curious about the previous night, bombards her with questions. Jianyu shares her thoughts that she didn't want to go back to the town, so she broke up Rosie's size, but she again gossips how the most popular guy of the university, Zong, prefers older women. Rosie teases her playfully, and the light-hearted banter momentarily lifts everyone's spirits in the room. But now Miran was so hurtful that she casually grabbed Zhang's poster and threw in the trash, treating it like a lost and found item. The next day, just as she was puzzled over it, Zhang popped up, smirking like a cat who found the cream, and teased her about the piece she had supposedly asked for. As he attempted to open it, she quickly intervened, expressing her concern that it would be difficult to handle. Amused, Zhang had questioned why she was making a fuss over something so trivial. She then picked up the item and started to leave, clearly jealous because she still thinks that Zhang has a girlfriend. After returning home, she nervously examined her parcel, anxiety about her upcoming interview weighing on her mind. Trying to reassure herself, Miao had thought about how talented she was and hoped the interview would go well. However, because of this interview, things had not gone as planned in class. Her performance on a test had been poor, resulting in severe reprimands from the teacher. By the time the class had ended, only Zhong and a few others had remained. Noticing her distress, Zhong had approached Miran, who was visibly upset and unresponsive. Taking it upon himself to help, he had begun explaining the concepts she needed to study. Seeing her lack of focus, he had challenged her to repeat what he had just explained, curious to see if she had paid attention. Definitely, Miren had responded that everyone had their own ways of doing things, and insisted she would handle it her way. Without further exchange, she stormed off, leaving Jung standing there. Later on, Miren's friends had been gossiping about her peculiar behavior. One of them remarked that she had been ignoring people all day. Jung, overhearing their conversation, had chosen to stay silent and walked away. During lunch, Miren had been eating when Jung unexpectedly approached her and handed over his notes. With a brief remark about how she could take her time returning them, he had walked away without waiting for a response. Observing the scene, Yue had sarcastically commented on how considerate Jung appeared. Yue had seized the opportunity to tease her, suggesting that she should return the notes safely. Yue, while holding the notes, had smiled and joked that they were so well prepared it felt like she had received a cheat sheet. In the class, the results were being announced, and it was revealed that Janyu had secured the second position, while Miren was at the very bottom. The news left Zhang utterly shocked. On the other hand, Yue returned his notes, saying that he had read them and now wanted to return them. He added that Miren had asked him to give them back. Zhang, however, was visibly angry. He slammed the notes onto the table, causing all the students to stare at him. The teacher immediately reminded the class to stay focused. As soon as the class ended, Zhang approached Miren, but she ignored him. He was confused and couldn't understand why Miren was upset with her. Later, the friends were chatting in their group. In the conversation, Miren had written that if she didn't score well and couldn't achieve results through her hard work, she would swim in the school pool fully clothed. Reading this, Zhang was both surprised and angry. When his manager confronted him, Zhang pointed out his faults and told him to focus on her own issues instead of interfering in his matters. Back in his room, Zhang found Bao watching a live stream of Miao. Meanwhile, Yue asked Zong about the girl he had been with earlier, teasingly suggesting she might be his girlfriend. Zong denied it, though the entire class was already buzzing with the rumor. Zhaog then understood why Miren had been upset. Later, the group gathered for karaoke. Zong arrived, calling the girls to him, showing off confidently. He then sat just beside Miren, but she tried to move away, but Zong pulled her back, asking if she was upset with him. Miren denied it, though her actions said otherwise. When it was Zong's turn to sing, Miren refused to hand him the mic, but Zong managed to grab it and sang a song about not having a girlfriend. Yue recorded the performance and shared it widely, making all the girls cheer at the thought of Zong being single. After enjoying the night, the group headed back, visibly intoxicated. Yue's friend helped him walk. Meanwhile, Bao noticed Miao was running in the field. On the other hand, Miren seemed incredibly happy, and when Zhang asked why she was so cheerful, she excitedly shared how she had received extra food at a cafe. Zhang commented on how easily Miren could find joy in simple things. Later, Miren asked Zhang if the girl with him earlier was his girlfriend. Zhang suspected she was jealous and clarified that the girl was a family member. Mian imagined the scenario in her mind, laughing uncontrollably. Zhang, puzzled, asked what was so funny. Mian dismissed it, though her amusement lingered. The scene shifted to Miao, who saw Bao and called him. Miao asked her what she was doing late at night, to which Miao mentioned feeling self-conscious about her weight and wanted to run laps as a form of exercise. Bao noticed her already having completed 5 laps, which surprised Miao. When she questioned how he knew, Bao got shy and quickly fled, using an excuse about a friend, while Zhang and Miren seemed to resolve their differences. And suddenly, Zhang asked her to be his girlfriend. She agreed, and Zhang held Miren's cold hand, asking when she started liking him. Miren admitted she had started liking him again after making his poster, and even brought it to her room. Zhang playfully asked her to return the poster, calling it a symbol of their affection. Sapphire Miren looked guilty, hinting that she might have discarded it. Zhang laughed, saying he hoped she hadn't really thrown it away. She denied it. The next day, Miren prepared for an interview the next day. Despite the electric issues at home, she decided on a simple, elegant dress. During the interview, her performance was well received, but the interviewers rejected her after reading her resume, saying they only hired design majors, but she was business. Miren left the interview disappointed, her hopes dashed. After the check was done, Miren sat in one spot, observing the surroundings. Soon, a person named Yor arrived, engrossed in a phone call about design work. Yor struggled to recall a particular name during the conversation. Miren promptly supplied the correct name and even added when that person had started working. Yor, perhaps thankful, concluded the call and approached Miren. Yor sat down next to her, casually complimenting her by assuming she must be an excellent employee. With a smile, Miren corrected him, saying she wasn't an employee but a student attending an interview. Yor then curiously checked her work and, after 3 quick questions, declared that she was accepted. It was only after Yor left that Miren checked his card and realized he was the director. Her excitement knew no bounds, and she couldn't wait to share the good news with her boyfriend. Zhang, amused by her joy, suggested they meet to celebrate. Meanwhile, the manager arrived, offering water to the workers. With that, he cheerfully walked away, leaving the manager puzzled. During dinner, Miren couldn't stop smiling. She thanked Zhang for not sharing her interview video and, quote, asked why he would even think of doing that. Miren then teasingly asked if Zhang had liked her from the beginning and wanted to be with her. Zhang, taken aback, told her to stop her dramatics, saying there was no such thing. Later, Miren asked Zhang for her notes. Surprised, Zhang questioned why she needed them now. She jokingly added that her boyfriend was so likable that even her notes were in demand. Zhang, pretending to be exasperated, urged her not to fail this time. He teased that he wouldn't want his girlfriend to undergo a public punishment. Miren laughed and suggested they keep their relationship secret to avoid unnecessary attention. Zhang dramatically sighed, playfully agreeing. Back home, Zhang's stepmom approached him, showing off a colorful tie dress. She excitedly suggested he wear it, but Zhang refused, accusing her of always pushing her fashion choices on him. With a pout, she warned that when his pocket money ran low, he better not come begging. Zhang, sensing the gravity of financial famine, quickly accepted the dress. Moments later, he emerged wearing it, while his stepmom and father admired their well-dressed masterpiece. During dinner, Zhang saw the family gathered and decided to make a quick exit with his plate. He casually suggested Miren on text having Thai food the next day, but the Miren sarcastically remarked that she had her own tasks to do. Zhang was left ignored, but he maintained his cool. Meanwhile, Jianu's mother and father were discussing her half-brother over dinner. They even called to ask if he would return home for a meal, but he declined, claiming he was at a party. In response, her father removed the prepared food from the table and put it back in the fridge, declaring that no food would wait for the absent son. Jianu, witnessing this, excused herself, saying she had no appetite. Later, while Jianu was washing dishes, her half-brother returned. Her mother, assuming he must be hungry, offered to cook something. He refused, and Jianu simply observed. The next day, Zhang faced a stubborn group of workers demanding 5 times their usual pay. With a sly grin, he rejected their demands, boldly declaring that he and his team would handle the task themselves. On the other hand, Miren's parents couldn't believe their eyes. Miren, who was once crowned the queen of napping, was now glued to her books like a scholar. Her mom even joked that their daughter's electric circuit might be malfunctioning, suggesting a quick trip to the repair shop. But before they could further investigate, Miren stormed in, snatched the remote, and declared a television ban in the name of study peace. Realizing their daughter had turned into a study machine, her parents schemed a clever plan. They tried bribing her with movie tickets and extra cash, urging her to go out and have a life. Miren, however, declined with unwavering determination. Her mom, witnessing this alien transformation, chuckled. Is she studying for a PhD in stubbornness? Eventually, Miren's father handed her some cash, and her mom, unable to resist, slyly suggested that he share his newfound riches. Roaming aimlessly, Miren spotted some school kids, which reminded her of a video Zhang had once sent her. In it, he claimed to have hidden a surprise box beneath a tree. Following the clue, Miren darted around trees like a treasure hunter in a low-budget adventure film. After a few hilarious misfires, she finally unearthed the box, only to find a picture inside with a heartfelt note, promising to celebrate anniversaries together. Overwhelmed, she wrote "okay" in reply, and reburied the memory like a sentimental squirrel. Back at Zhang's place, Miren noticed him working hard. Her wild imagination took off, spinning a tale of Zhang as a destitute man toiling away in a shadowy factory. Ignoring reality, she dramatically handed him some money, thinking she was his savior. Zhang, bewildered and slightly offended, shared this bizarre encounter with his manager, who could only respond with a raised brow and a sigh. Later, Miren's parents debated her pocket money crisis. She insisted she needed extra cash to cover meals, snacks, and her fashionable impulses. Her dad, ever the peacemaker, suggested a slight increase. Miren's mom, however, smirked and inquired if her daughter had secretly acquired a boyfriend. Miren's exaggerated denial had all the finesse of a cartoon character caught red-handed. Meanwhile, a playful school scenario unfolded as a student from Jianu's class sketched a caricature and proudly presented it to her. while Miren was still struggling to ask money from her parents. When she got it, she ran away to her room. In the group call, everyone is talking about a webtoon, such as how a girl left his boyfriend when she found out that he became poor. In a twist of dramatic overthinking, Miren imagined Zhang being scolded at work for poor performance. She saw herself storming into his workplace like a rom-com heroine, dramatically declaring, "If he goes, I go." Her mental movie rolled on until reality dragged her back to a far less scandalous day. After taking a half day off, he returned to the shop to see his manager. While asserting he had everything under control, Zhang's expression betrayed the panic of a man who had perhaps forgotten how control worked. On top of that, Miren's earlier donation had left him conflicted. He toyed with the idea of returning the money, but when he mustered the courage to face her, Miren's expression screamed, "What money?" As if selective memory loss had been her recent hobby, Zhang had just used the exact same coins he got as change earlier. Miren was now almost certain that Zhang was genuinely broke. The sight of the falling coins further solidified his belief, leading him to declare in frustration that if Zhang had no money, there was no point in staying there. Without waiting for an explanation, Miren left, leaving Zhang confused about what had just happened. Meanwhile, Miren attended her first day of internship, sitting through a meeting with the director. The director observed everyone's work, amused by how things were going. When Miren was introduced, people welcomed her warmly, though one particular colleague was visibly jealous. The girl couldn't help but wonder aloud how Miren managed to land a spot there despite not being from their major. The director, however, chose to ignore the comment, simply acknowledging that Miren had all the necessary information for the role. Despite the minor tension, the day continued and Miren was asked by her friends how her first day had been. She mentioned that everything was fine except for the one colleague who clearly didn't like her. Later, Miren was reminded of a story she had once heard about a boy who had been struggling financially. Despite his circumstances, he had managed to turn his life around after receiving help from a health client introduced by someone. Inspired by this, Miren thought that perhaps she could also help Zhang by connecting him with the right people. Coincidentally, Miren soon ran into a manager who knew Zhang. Curious, she asked the manager how he happened to be there. The manager, clearly uneasy, tried to cover up Zhang's earlier lies about his financial status. To maintain the facade, the manager spun a narrative that left both Miren and the director skeptical. Despite this, the conversation moved on without further clarification. Later, Miren vented her thoughts in a group chat, sarcastically stating that business seemed to be 90% politics and only 10% actual work. She remarked how people often ended up arguing like pigeons fighting over scraps. During the subsequent meeting, the director evaluated everyone's work, but none seemed satisfactory. However, when it was Miren's turn, the director unexpectedly praised her work and appointed her as the writer. This decision left the jealous colleague fuming, convinced that Miren's lack of experience should have disqualified her. The director, however, confidently dismissed the concerns, asserting that he valued good work over experience. Following the meeting, the director privately questioned Miren about her connection with Zhang. Miren explained that they were simply classmates, avoiding any further discussion. Despite her attempt to downplay their relationship, the director remained intrigued, his curiosity clearly piqued. Later that evening, Miren's curiosity led her to investigate Zhang's living situation. Under the pretense of offering help, she slyly asked Yue if there was anything she could assist him with. Yue, thinking nothing of it, jokingly complained about the constant allergies in his room, even mentioning his recent breakout of pimples. Miren pretended to be sympathetic, but mentally took note of this information. The next day, Miren was planning her visit to Zhang's farm when Yue approached her and asked if she would attend a sports match happening soon. Miren agreed enthusiastically, realizing this would provide the perfect opportunity to sneak a peek at Zhang's room. Meanwhile, Zhang was dealing with his own drama. His manager informed him that Miren had been appointed in the company and subtly teased him about his attempts to impress her. Zhang insisted that Miren didn't care whether he was rich or poor, adding that she was genuinely kind and caring. Wanting to meet her, Zhang messaged Miren to ask if she was free the next day. Miren, however, declined, claiming she was busy. Frustrated by the rejection, Zhang's mood soured even further when his manager suggested that he should embrace his single status. Despite the manager's jabs, Zhang refused to give up. He resolved to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to figure out his relationship with Miren once and for all. Meanwhile, Miren's plans to uncover the truth about Zhang's life continued to brew, setting the stage for more chaos and revelations.